Alrighty, hey everyone, welcome back. Happy Monday. Hopefully it's happy for you guys. Obviously Bitcoin was up today, miners were down in the red, markets I think were in the green as well, but everything else was in the red for the most part. So we'll take a look at what's happening there. Not much news as far as miners are concerned. Again, it's kind of lackluster right now with any kind of data coming out of these guys. No deals, no nothing, no nothing. It's been kind of sad. We're all waiting with bated breath, I think, for one of these guys to come out with a new deal. Eventually, I think we'll get there, but right now we have nothing. So, did a little bit of research as far as what's going on with Bitcoin. Why is gold, silver pumping, and Bitcoin's really not? Looked at a bunch of articles online, did a bunch of queries on AI, on Gemini, and also on Grok as well from XAI. And we'll take a look at, I mean, their answers were pretty close to each other as it is. So we'll just take a look at what Gemini had to say as far as what the heck is going on here with Bitcoin and why are precious metals pumping like crazy here. So we'll take a look at that. I'll give you guys my thoughts on the answer by AI, I guess, at that point. And then we have some good news stories as well to take a look at, but not much. And then after that, we'll get into Q&A here. So let's get into it here. All right, as always, you all know, not financial advice, for entertainment only. Do your own research, and full disclosure below that. If you would be so kind, hit the like button, helps me out. And if you are kind enough to subscribe, greatly appreciate it. All right, let's take a look at what's going on here with Bitcoin here today. We'll take a look at that first, obviously in the miners as well. But Bitcoin actually had a nice bounce today compared to what we saw on Sunday night. We bounced here as well. So we got up to a close of 88,250 and 1 penny there. We were up 1.95%. So it was a nice actually a bounce. I thought we were going to be more in the red here today possibly. But we're kind of bouncing, at least right now. We're holding kind of like the 84,000, 85,000 range. And we keep going up to like 94, 95,000, and we're coming back down. We'll see where we end up at. But yeah, right now, Bitcoin's not doing really anything or much at all. It is just kind of up and down as it is. And you guys can see it here on the chart. Okay, as far as the markets were up today. Dow Jones was up a little bit, 0.64%. NASDAQ was up 0.43%. S&P was up 0.5%. Russell was actually down today. Maybe this is the reason why the miners were actually down today. Russell was down 0.31%. Ethereum here today was also up a little bit as well. It was up, well, a little bit, 4%. So that one had a nice bounce as well, similar to Bitcoin here. Miners, for the most part, were all down today. We had Bitfarms being down 5.47% there. It's still battling with that 50-day simple moving day average. BitDeer was down 4.34%. It's battling with the 200 SMA. Kango was down 5.07%. It's now squarely below the 50 SMA. Cypher was down 6.15%. It bounced off the 100 SMA a little bit there at least, and it has been battling with the 50 SMA. Cleanspark here was down a lot, 9.26%. I mean, there really wasn't any reason for it other than maybe having some of their sites being shut down for curtailment in the area that got hit by the winter storms. I think that's the only reason why this one was down maybe this much, maybe. There's nothing else that really happening in there. CORZ was the only one that was actually up. It was up 1.38%. This was up higher towards the day and then came back down a little bit here. I think this was because of CoreWeave getting, what was it, $2 billion investment from NVIDIA. They're partnering there as well. So I think CoreWeave was up quite nicely today. It was up over 10% at one point. I'm not sure where it ended up there. We'll maybe take a look at that down. Maybe we'll take a look at it. Maybe we won't. But that obviously helped, I think, CORZ here today. Hive was down 5.9%. Hut 8 was down 3.14%. IREN was down also quite a bit there, 7.62%. That one is still kind of like a little bit range bound here, at least the last couple of days. Right now, we'll see if we can break out of that anytime soon here. And then Mara was down 4.85%. Riot was down 6.08%. Wolf was down 2.34%. The Bitcoin treasury companies were down for the most part, except for, well, let's take a look at Metaplan was up 3.36%. We had Nexum being also up 0.09% there, and GameStop was up 4.44%. That's a tongue twister there a little bit. Small miners were down for the most part as well. Annie was down 4% and change. Argo was down 1.37. DG Power was down 3.04. DMG was down 4.19. Mawson was down 4. Canon was down 4.3. Let's see, the Bitcoin miner ETFs were all down. BitQ was down 2.73. BKCH was down 3.92. DAP was down 3.3. WGMI was down 5.21%. That one is right on the 100 SMA line right there. It's been kind of bouncing off of that a little bit. We'll see if it can stay there. And then the Ethereum holding companies here were all down as well for some reason. Even Ethereum was up, but they were still down. BMNR was down 3.47%. BitDigital was down 1.42. BTCS was down 4.12. Game was down 2.54. SBET was down 3.79. And then the other companies that we track here, American Bitcoin was down 1.31. Wi-Fi was actually up 2.09% there. Open was down 2.33. Oracle was up 2.98. Nibius was down 3.22. Soluna was down 3.76. Backed was down 8.94%. Fermi was down 6.02%. Meta was actually up 2.06. Google was up 1.57. Amazon was down 0.31. Microsoft was up 0.93. And NVIDIA was down 0.64% there. And the other two that we track are EOS. EOS was down 5.38. And New AI was down 13.09%. Did this thing peak here last Thursday? Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to obviously see how this one plays out. You guys know my stance on that. I think there's some things that are questionable with that company here, but we'll see obviously how that one does going forward there. There's obviously a lot of bulls on X right now as it is that are going for this. And maybe they're right. Maybe this thing does have some possibilities going forward. I'm not so sure right now. We'll see. I hope it's not one of those things where we saw the same thing happening here with Soluna, right? Soluna, there was a lot of talk about Soluna going back to October, right, where it peaked at $5.14, and ever since then it kind of fell back down. So hopefully that's not the case for all those invested in New AI, and hopefully it does really well. But I still have some questionable thoughts on that one. All right, Bitcoin minus here after hours right now. Let's really look at those guys here. BitDeer is down 0.65%. Bitfarms is right now up a little bit, 0.77% here. Kango after hours is up 0.47%. Cypher right now is up 1.58%. Cleanspark is up 0.96%. CORZ Scientific is up 0.89%. Hive Digital is up 0.99%. Hut 8 is up 1.97%. And IREN here is up 1.95%. Mora is up 1.4%. Riot is 1.91%. And TeraWolf is up a little bit, 0.65%. So a lot of these guys are still up in the after hours, pre-hours right now, which is actually pretty good, right? We'll take it. Obviously, they were beaten down here today, so I think that's just a bounce that we're seeing here on these guys going forward there. So that's it on those miners. Here, Bitcoin right now for the month of January is up a little bit. It's up 0.85%. We were in the red yesterday. We bounced back up here above that threshold to be in the green here. We got a couple more days left trading in Bitcoin. We'll see if we end up in the red here or in the green, actually. Yeah, I mean, we'll keep an eye on that one. All right, Bitcoin miner ETFs, not Bitcoin miner ETFs, Bitcoin ETFs themselves, inflows, outflows here. We had just a little bit of outflows, at least right now, 9.1 million here. We're waiting on IBIT to report, which is BlackRock. Once we get that, we'll see what that data is like tomorrow, probably. But I'm guessing it's going to be probably another red day here. So we've had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 red days in a row. Not great. So we'll see how that progresses going forward here. Next here, as far as the news is concerned, President Trump increases tariffs on South Korea to 25% and says the country is not living up to its deal with the U.S. So this is one of those things that I think is also a reason why Bitcoin has not been able to make a charge to the upside for a lot of the reasons. But I think this is one of them with just the uncertainty in the markets right now. But here's what he had to say. So President Donald Trump said, our trade deal are very important to America. In each of these deals, we have acted swiftly to reduce our tariffs in line with the transaction agreed to. We, of course, expect our trading partners to do the same. South Korea's legislature is not living up to its deal with the United States. President Lee and I reached a great deal for both countries on July 30th, 2025. And we reaffirmed these terms while I was in Korea on October 29th, 2025. Why hasn't the Korean legislature approved it? Because the Korean legislature hasn't enacted our historic trade agreement, which is their prerogative. I am hereby increasing South Korea tariffs on autos, lumber, pharma, and all other reciprocal tariffs from 15% to 25%. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States there. So this is one of those things that it would be nice if we didn't have to deal with it, I think. But it is something that could be used positively if the other countries do the same thing, right? All that stuff. But this is one of those things that doesn't to the markets at least. So the markets like certainty. This does not give them certainty because things can change from day to day. We obviously saw over the weekend, right, where he was going to increase tariffs on Canada to 100%. If they were going to sign a deal with China for trading, that obviously I think has fallen through. So Canada's not going to be doing that. But it's one of those things where it's on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. And markets don't like this uncertainty. They like easy peasy, I guess, lemon squeezy, where things are just, going their natural route. Okay, so we got that to contend with here right now. And then this is from the Kobasi letter here. Breaking gold and silver erased 1.7 trillion of market cap in 90 minutes in one of the largest reversals in history. That's kind of interesting, right? Both of those have kind of reached their highs there at that point. And they both kind of retracted here. So if we take a look at gold and silver, not on this chart, where's it at? It is over here. Sorry about that. I have it here. Is this one? Yep, gold. Okay, so here's gold. We've always seen a huge rally in gold here happening over the last, basically, we could go all the way back to where did it start actually doing something? Started actually doing something back here, back in March of 2024. So about 2 years ago, roughly, we've seen a huge increase in gold from where I kind of started to rally here, and it's been on a nice upward path here. So it's up 151% since then, roughly, right, 150%. And we've seen, obviously, the RSI get kind of heated here at times on it already. Just on the daily chart itself, we've seen it get above the 70 mark here for a while here. This was back in September through October. We dipped back down a little bit, came and started going back up here. So we got high again in towards the end of December here, and we're getting pretty high again on the RSI here right now as it is towards the end of January here. So we obviously saw a pretty sizable pullback, at least on the 1 hour chart. Here's the 1 hour chart. You can see where it kind of peaked here right around, let's see, on Monday it peaked. Peaked at right at the beginning of the new day here, looks like, for Monday. And then it traded sideways and then it actually started to fall down here, bounced off the SMA, 50 SMA, at least on the 1 hour chart here. But you can also see on the weekly chart, the RSI is getting kind of heated on that one. Same thing for silver. You can see the RSI getting kind of overheated here. So we had definitely a pretty sizable pullback, at least on the 1 hour chart here. But for the day, it still ended up in the green here. So silver got to a high of $117.73. At that point, it started to crash down here. Is it finally happening where people are, taking their gains on it, especially people that bought into it at much lower prices, right? When they got into it, when it was still down here, right around the $38 range, even lower recently here was at $33, right? That's kind of where it's been roughly around that range at $33 for a while. And then obviously had a huge impact here. All right, so maybe it's kind of peaking here a little bit. Maybe we get a little bit of a pullback on that. I don't think we're done with it just yet with gold and silver yet. As long as we have uncertainty in the markets, I think this is going to continue on for a while longer, which then will obviously take us into the real story that we're going to talk about, obviously, is why Bitcoin is stuck more or less and why is gold and silver pumping here. Okay, but these have obviously done very, very well here in the last, I would say, year to 2 years, especially for gold. And the gold bugs, congratulations to them. They were holding on for a long time there where gold didn't do anything, and finally gold has had a nice run up here for them. So congrats to those guys. I didn't see this coming, to be honest with you guys. I didn't think that gold was going to, I knew gold was going to go up, but I didn't think it was going to have such a crazy run here in the last 2 years. But there's that. And going over here, Strategy, one good news story. Strategy has acquired another 2,932 Bitcoin for $264.1 million at approximately $90,061 per Bitcoin. As of obviously today, they now hodl 712,647 Bitcoin acquired for $54.19 billion at an average cost of $76,037 per Bitcoin. They continue to buy regardless of where the price is at. I love the fact that they're doing it. Right, this is great for Bitcoin, gets it off of exchanges, everywhere else. But we have a lot of people, I think, that are still selling, and it's kind of where we're stuck in this range a little bit here. So let's get into what Jim and I had to say here as far as what are the reasons why Bitcoin is stuck and gold and silver has been pumping. We've touched on a number of these here in the past as well, but we're kind of just going to go over it. I'll give you guys my thoughts on it as well, and you guys can chime in at that point as well. But here's what we have. So if we pull this up, hopefully I can read this properly here. But here's what I had to say. So gold hitting the 5,000 milestone and silver climbing past 100 are driven by classic risk-off environment. Several factors are fueling this. So they talk about geopolitical and trade tensions, which I've talked about also. But renewed tariff threats, specifically involving the U.S. and Canada and China, have created a climate of uncertainty in these scenarios. Institutional capital trends to flee paper assets and speculative tech for physical centuries-old stores of value, right? Which we've talked about that. That's never a great sign for Bitcoin having tensions, but that's why gold is going up. Countries are not happy with the United States. That's a result of obviously gold going up and silver as well. Silver is also used in a lot of technological devices, so that could be part of it also in there. And then a crisis of trust in the dollar. So there is a growing concern regarding the stability of the U.S. dollar and the potential for political interference in Federal Reserve policy. This has led to a repricing of trust, where investors prefer assets that are not tied to any single government's fiscal health, which is also true. We've seen that play out this last, what has it been, year to 2 years roughly or so. We've seen the Fed being kind of stubborn in lowering interest rates as well. But also it's just, when it comes to like the dollar, the devaluation, the amount that's being printed here, that doesn't help either, I think. And that's why some countries, some banks as well, some people that you would normally invest in the US dollar are jumping ship and going into like gold and silver there as well. Okay, and then we have central bank accumulation here. Central banks globally have continued to diversify their reserves away from the dollar, providing a massive steady floor for gold price, which is also true. Right, we're seeing that happen across Europe, China as well, India, and other places as well. So that's playing definitely into it. Silver's dual role, beyond being a safe haven, silver is benefiting from a commodities super cycle driven by industrial demand in AI infrastructure, solar energy, and high-end electronics, which is also true. I mean, you're seeing all the build-out that's happening in the AI space with GPUs and everything else that NVIDIA's building out, AMD, excuse me, Cerberus as well. All of that is definitely driving it there. So why is Bitcoin lagging there? Despite the digital gold narrative, Bitcoin's currently behaving more like a high volatility tech stock than a safe haven asset. It has struggled to regain the 126,000 peak from late 2025 for a few key reasons. So here are the key reasons. Loss of hedge narrative. In the specific 2026 cycle, the market has debunked the idea of Bitcoin as a safe harbor. Instead, it is being traded as a high volatility risk asset that depends on cheap liquidity. When the Fed signals it will keep interest rates steady rather than cutting them, Bitcoin loses its fuel. Yeah, we've kind of seen that too. Right when the Fed was cutting in Q3 and into Q4, Bitcoin did pretty well. After that, they've kind of talked about obviously holding steady for a while. As a result, Bitcoin has fallen down here. We're kind of seeing that play out there. Also, psychological resistance here. There is a significant supply overhang near the 100,000 mark. Every time Bitcoin rallies toward that level, it hits a wall of sellers, investors who bought in during the 2025 hype and are now looking to exit at break-even prices, which you also could have a bunch of people that got into it much, much earlier at that point. You got people that got in the 2021 cycle, in the 2017 cycle, and others. Bitcoin getting to 100,000, that's definitely been well, for some people, it could be definitely life-changing amounts of revenue or value there that they would be selling at that point. I mean, we saw a couple stories here where there were billions of dollars being sold in 2025 by people that were like the OGs, the old dogs holding on to Bitcoin. So that is definitely something to be mindful of there. But we're also seeing obviously more adoption happening here. I think eventually things will change for us, but it's not going to be for a little bit more here, or at least a little bit longer. And then capital rotation. Investors are actively pulling money out of crypto ETFs and moving it into precious metals. The capital flight, estimated at over $1 trillion from the total crypto market recently, leaves Bitcoin without the buying pressure needed to sustain rally, which is also true. It's much easier for people to get into the ETFs, Bitcoin and everything else. And Bitcoin was obviously much lower about a year to 2 years ago when the ETFs came on board here. And then with the risk on asset, as Bitcoin is sometimes tied to as well, it has not done well because there's a lot of risk. You have obviously the uncertainty in the geopolitical range, You have uncertainty with the dollar. There's just a lot of uncertainty on tariffs as well. On it, let's see here. What else do we have here? Going down here, the market is currently prioritizing stability, metals over speculative growth. Bitcoin, gold, and silver are being treated as insurance, while Bitcoin is being treated as a bet that most aren't willing to make until macroeconomic dust settles. Okay, right. So that's kind of what we're seeing here, is that there's just too much uncertainty in the markets with tariffs on, tariffs off, and that obviously has a result of Bitcoin kind of being stuck, unfortunately. The good thing is, though, the BTC AI miners have changed from being Bitcoin driven to AI driven, which obviously is helping them quite tremendously in the past year. If they did not transition to AI, I think they would be probably being down quite a bit from where they are right now. We've seen a lot of these BTC AI miners actually outperform Bitcoin in the last year, and if they didn't transition, they would have been probably now down 80, 90%, with Bitcoin being down 30 some odd percent from the top. So the good thing, like I said, is that they did transition. So that kind of insulated them a little bit, because there's a lot more hype here in AI and the AI potential and everything else. And that is obviously still in the early stages, where a lot of it still needs to be built out. A lot of companies are trying to build it out. And these guys luckily have a lot of megawatts because they were doing it to mine Bitcoin, which you obviously need a lot of megawatts for that as well. So is it happenstance?Maybe. Are we lucky to be in this? Possibly. But nonetheless, it's definitely has helped us out to limit the amount of losses that we would have had normally if had it been just these Bitcoin miners being in Bitcoin, I think, at that point. Okay, so we should be thankful for what we do have. And we can see it on days like today, where Bitcoin is up and the miners were actually down. Could it be that because Bitcoin was down yesterday and the miners just kind of reacted to it today? Possibly, but I think it was just driven by the overall markets for the Russell being down as well. Gold going up, silver going up as well. We could have possibly seen some selling out of the equities there and into the metals there at that point. Okay. When this is going to change here, I think once we get some stability in the markets by not having these tariffs on and off all the time, I think that would help. And I don't know if the narrative is going to change around the US dollar, right? You got to have, this is just my take. I could be completely wrong on this, but I think you have to have a more friendly going posture with other countries. You know, you can talk, you can make deals behind the doors, but in public, I think you need to have a little bit more friendly, outgoing personality towards those other countries. In the back doors, in the back rooms, you can make those deals that are a little bit more harsher, but you keep it in the back rooms. You don't bring it out to the front of public and bring it out into where Wall Street can see it and everything else. That's just my take. But we'll see. Maybe this does work out in our advantage in the long run, but right now, the instability is obviously a cause of some of our pain here, at least in Bitcoin right now. But eventually, I think also that gold and silver will start to come back down to reality a little bit, maybe. And at that point, Bitcoin should benefit from that as we possibly move back onto risk-on assets at that time. But again, when is that going to be? I don't know. I'm here for the ride, though. We'll see where we end up at the end of this year and later on as well. I'm holding on to Bitcoin for the next 10 years or so I'm not really too concerned where it goes in the short term. Long term, I think it's still going to go up, but it is definitely, it's not great at the moment at least. Okay. All right, that is it. That's all I got for you guys. Like I said, not much is happening with Bitcoin miners right now, not much news. So this is kind of all that we had. So we'll get into Q&A here next, and we'll call it a day and see what you guys have to say on any of this stuff here. And as always, I greatly appreciate you all coming in here. But that is what's going on here, what we're seeing at least right now. All right, let's get into the questions here. Let's see. Carl says, evening Seb, hope all is well. Added a few Bitfarms and Cleanspark today, waiting for some rotation from metals to Bitcoin. I think we're all waiting on that as well. And that's awesome that you were buying here a little bit on the dip. What else we got here? All right. John Kurt says, okay, gang, Bitcoin has completed a perfect cup and handle. The parabolic move by silver is over. Guess who is next? I don't have a time yet for the Bitcoin surge to 250,000 plus. That would be great. All right, Daryl, let's see. Daryl says, bought some more Cleanspark as well today, as I am a firm believer in the company being been holding and dollar cost averaging for a very long time. Likewise, I'm with you there. What else do we have here? All right. John Chris says, I'm continuing to buy IREN on dips. Awesome. So yeah, you guys are doing what I would have done if I had the cash, if I wasn't spending it on this basement here. Rob said, did you watch the McNally Money Bitfarms episode and did you like it? I did watch it. They provide a lot of great information, which they always do as well. Yeah, I thought it was good. Brad, question for later. Can a deal be made with a hyperscaler without having infrastructure energized and chips installed? Also, with so much power in IREN's pipeline, close to 3 gigawatts, when next deal? We're all hoping it's going to be before they report their quarterly results, or maybe they do it during their quarterly results. As far as can a deal be made with a hyperscaler without having infrastructure energized? Yeah, energized, depending. I don't think I think there has to be a timeline as far as when the energy gets energized, the megawatts. If you can do it at the same time as you're building out, because it takes time to build out, right? For most of these guys are building out data centers right now as it is, whether it's Wolf, Hut 8, even IREN right now, right? All of these guys, IREN's kind of retrofitting some of their facilities, but they're still building out. And as long as you can get the megawatts in time hooked up by the completion of the data center, I don't think that's no deal there or nothing like that. I think that can still be done because we've seen that happen already here. As far as chips, I mean, obviously the chips are going to be usually purchased by the hyperscalers. The only deal that's been kind of different from that is I think IREN is going to be buying the servers and the chips and all that stuff to put in there. So that still can be done, right? So yeah, if you don't have all that stuff lined up just yet, but if you can build out in time and get all that stuff connected at the same time, I think it's still doable. All right. Ryan is back here with us. What's up, guys? What's up, Ryan? Ryan celebrates 34 months of membership. What is the option to the... What is your opinion on the extended cycle? I think it's still in play. As long as Bitcoin doesn't go below like 80,000 to 75,000, I think we'll be okay. As long as we stay above that range, I think we'll be good. All right. Will Bitcoin go up to 150,000 by 2027? I think we will. I think we'll be somewhere between 150 and 180 by the end of the year. That's just my take on that one. Kevin says crypto has failed. Is a failed asset class. Stocks up. AI stocks up. Gold and silver up. As U.S. dollar down. Small caps up strong. I don't think it's a failed asset. No, excuse me. I don't think it's a failed asset. I think it's just an no man's land right now as far as price appreciation. We've seen this before. We've been through it already. This is the third time we're going through it. In this cycle, we've had it twice already where Bitcoin has gone up nicely, came back down, kind of languished for a little while, and then we started going back up here. So this could be just part of it. All right. Rob says, I'm watching The Color of Money with Tom Cruise and Paul Newman, and I feel really lucky with Bitfarms and Hive. Awesome. I don't know if I saw that movie or not. I'll have to look into that one. Kevin Scott says quantum computing is a big issue nobody wants to admit. Quantum computing is obviously advancing on that front, but also Bitcoin devs are working on a quantum proof algorithm for their security. So I don't think that's going to be an issue there. All right. Daryl says, question, I bought over 20,000 shares of Cleanspark almost 5 years ago, April 2021, as $20 when the market cap was only 600 million. The market cap is 5x greater, yet the share price is 38 lower due to dilution. Do you believe I can still at the least double my original investment on this one? Yes. So if you bought it at 20 at that point, you obviously got into it before. You must have had it before. When did you get into 2021? I'm not sure where it was. Let me see. April 2021. Okay. So that was obviously on the run of, I think it was coming down in price at that point already, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to look back. But yeah, I think we should be able to get to like $35, $40 with a deal announced later on this year. And that you should be able to double it at that point. I started buying it in 2022, around $8, $9. Sorry about the sneezes. Allergies are starting to kick in again. Yeah, I started buying it around $8, $9, and that dollar cost average all the way down to, I think it was like $2, $1 or something at one point. I was buying it at those prices as well, and I've been, so ever since 2022, I've been dollar cost averaging throughout the years here. Okay, Kevin Scott, BTC miners will suffer bad if in this bear market, most will go under. I don't think so, because most of these guys are transitioning over into AI as well. My nose is itching, tickling right now. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't think they're going to go under. There's another halving in 2 years that will destroy the public miners. Again, if they were just purely Bitcoin miners, then I would possibly agree with you. If they are not going to be growing their hash rate, hold on. But these guys are, excuse me for the sneeze, these guys are transitioning into AI, which will buffer them greatly, I think, in the long run here. Carl Elliott here. If you bought paper silver ETFs, you are liquid, but call your local exchanges right now. If you have physical, they stop buying out of funds to buy. Ask me how I know. I guess you tried doing that. That's interesting there. Carl says those that are buying are paying 70 to 80% of spot price. Well, they got to make their money on it one way, right? So, and they can't foresee that silver or gold is going to be going up continually, so they have to have a cushion where they actually make some money on the trade there as well. Gary says gold, I believe, for the first time has outperformed Bitcoin. I didn't see that coming. Neither did I. You're talking about over the 5-year period. We would have to look at it. I know over the 10-year period, Bitcoin has outperformed still. The 5-year period, I would have to take a look at that one. See, Bitcoin performance has declined so much over the last 5 years. Worst 5-year performance over ever, I believe. We would have to take a look at that one, see where that one is. Let's see if we can pull up a chart here on that one. Let's see here. Where's Bitcoin? I'm going to go to Bitcoin. Bitcoin over the last 5 years. So let's look at the monthly chart on Bitcoin here. Bitcoin over the last 5 years. So we're going back to 2021 in January. Right? Would that be it? That'd be January 2021 here. I'll pull this up here on the chart for you guys here shortly once I get to that point. November 2021, December. Okay, there we are. Okay. So here's not that one. I wanted this one. Sorry. All right. Here's January 2021 here. So we're going back 5 years from January 2026 here. And we can probably start out at the beginning of February, basically. All right, so there's that. How do we do here since then? We were at 32,000. We are right now at, we're up 168% compared to other markets. Let's see, so this is 168% here. If we look at the Dow Jones, from that time frame, let's see, January, May, April, March, February, January. Okay, so there. All right, so the S&P is up 64% over the 5 years. So it still outperformed the Dow Jones. I'm guessing probably still outperformed NASDAQ at that point as well. February 2021 here over the 5 years. If you look at that one, February, right about there, up to here, 81. Yeah, so it outperformed those. And if we look at gold here as well, gold here going back to, let's see, where's that? December, right about there. July, nope, no, I want to go back to February. Right there. So gold was right there. Gold is up 192%. So gold has actually outperformed Bitcoin here in the last 5 years, if this is where we end up at least right now. But you can see it's obviously gotten pretty high here on the RSI. On the 1 month chart, we may see a fall back down because this is not sustainable for a long time. Sorry, I thought I was going to sneeze again. Yeah, I mean, we'll see how things progress going forward. That's why I say we need certainty in the markets. And right now we don't have that, unfortunately. All right, let's go back here. Dale says, forget gold and silver. My uranium stocks like Chemico are up 1,000% in the last 5 years. Awesome. Nicely done there. Let's see. Gary says, all the smart Bitcoin miners will be fully into HPCI by the next halving. IREN will be out shortly after they announce contract for Horizon 5 and 10 shortly, and then no profitable miners remain. That could be the case there for them for sure. John says, be greedy when others are fearful. Make no mistake about it. Bitcoin will rally, as will the miners. Every time Bitcoin is counted out, it rallies. Yeah, I get exactly there as well. That's why I said I'm going to be holding on to it for like 10 years. Let's see. Bevneet says, let's admit it. Trump has been the worst president for the markets. Well, not for the markets. Markets are up. It's just Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a risk-on asset, and risk-on assets right now some of them are not doing that well. Let's see here. Kevin, crypto failed for other reasons other than Trump. Yeah, it isn't just because of Trump. I think there's other reasons for it, geopolitical reasons, things like that. But yeah, interest rates being high. Rob, January is coming to an end soon, and it looks like the world's smartest man's prediction is all wrong. He will now become the world's dumbest man. Heard about that? Yeah, I think he's, what is it, a Japanese man or a Chinese individual there? I can't remember. But yeah, one of the smartest people there predicted Bitcoin's going to be going up huge. Hasn't played out that way. Kevin says October 10 was the destruction of crypto asset. Big money will not invest in the type of market exchange. Exchanges are crooks. Okay, exchanges can't get regulated, so there's no fixing it. Well, you can fix it with regulations, obviously. John says, "Wow, what a fun group we have tonight." Question: will markets crash if government shutdown happens? Probably. I don't think we're going to crash, like go down 30% or anything like that, but we will go down for a little bit there. Kevin says shutdown will produce the next leg down to Bitcoin 65,000. QQQ and SPY also at big risk there. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping that we don't go down to 65,000 on Bitcoin. Rob, the thing about owning physical silver is who are you going to sell it to when you want to sell it, especially when silver crashes. And well, it's the same thing with gold. I mean, gold, you can use it for jewelry and things like that. There's always going to be somebody, that will probably buy it. I mean, jewelry stores, and there's gold exchanges and things like that, and you can sell it at. But silver, I mean, yeah. Daryl, question, any thoughts on Matt Schultz, 45 million compensation for yeah, I thought that was a bit high. I saw that as well. That's definitely quite up there. Most of it was through shares, right, that he got that will vest over time, I believe. But they have to write it down as the current valuation of it. But yeah, that was definitely quite a bit. Puts him up there with the guys that like Riot and at Mara as well. So we may have to have a chat with Matt on that sometime. Garrett, 168% compare Bitcoin gains to Bitcoin for the first 5-year and second 5-year periods. Yeah, I mean, that's why I said 5 years recently here. I mean, we're up 168%, whatever it's been. The prior 5 years obviously have been much better from where we came. So if you look at the 10-year time frame, Bitcoin kicks everything's butt, though. Let's see, didn't Bitcoin run the last time we had a government shutdown? Not really. The government shutdown, when did that end? I think Bitcoin's coming down as well, part of it. I mean, we got to a high of 126,000, and we were coming down along with everything else, I think, at that point. So I don't think it ran at that point. Okay. All right. I think that's it. Come to all your guys' questions, comments, and everything else. We'll call it a day here. Yeah, we'll see where things go tomorrow. Hopefully we get some news out of these guys. If not, I'll be looking at that's the other part I'm still working on is I'm trying to get the megawatts for all these guys here and trying to do some calculations of the megawatts valuation on their current deals and things like that. So that's going to be coming up here, but that's taking me a little bit longer than I thought. So maybe by the end of this week, we'll get it done. If not, hopefully by the early February, we'll get it up and running as well. So that's working in the background on that part. Other than that, we'll see where things go, right? We got a couple more days left in January. We got the Fed meeting happening here later on this week as well. We'll see how does the Powell sound there, right? Is he dovish? Is he hawkish? We'll listen to that. We'll talk about it obviously at that point. And fingers crossed we get a deal from one of these guys for an AI deal. Until then, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Love you all for coming in. As always, I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you tomorrow. Until then.